thanks for joining me on another episode of Oxygen Pharma. I am Marianne Keriakos. On today's episode, we'll be discussing the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy that the federal government has announced and is offering to employers to assist them in their businesses and business expenses during the COVID-19 pandemic. We have with us Mr. Ricardo Ardiles, co-founder and managing partner of Pharma, a team of accountants and financial advisors that help pharmacists with accounting and financial solutions in order for them to grow their businesses. He will be with us today to discuss the subsidy as well as the $40,000 interest-free loan also announced by the federal government to assist businesses. Hi, Ricardo, and thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
And so some good news for pharmacy owners and pharmacists with the subsidy and the interest-free loan. How about you give us a bit of a highlights of the subsidy to start with?
Sure. So one thing just to start off, these programs are changing very quickly. So what I'm mentioning now could change tomorrow or next week. But pretty much what we know today is that there's going to be a wage subsidy that's going to cover 75% of your payroll costs. So for anyone that you still have on payroll right now, the government's going to cover 70% of those wages for 3 months. Now there is a cap, okay? The cap is going to be up to $58,700 per employee, which ends up working out to be about $847 per week. There's only one criteria that you have to meet for this, and that is that you have to show that you have had a decline in revenue of at least 30% due to COVID-19.
Okay, well, to start off with, can pharmacy owners go ahead and claim the wages of pharmacists under the subsidy?
So yes, if the pharmacist is on payroll, or any pharmacists that are not on payroll, so any pharmacists that invoice the pharmacy, those pharmacists would not be included.
Okay, what if they go ahead and put the pharmacist on payroll now?
No, you can't do that either, because you have to prove that that pharmacist was on payroll before COVID-19 started. So in January, February of this year, you have to show that they were on payroll at that point.
Okay, as we all know, pharmacies are some of the few businesses that remain open during the COVID-19 pandemic. And so they may not be in a position to show a decrease in revenue. What about them? So is the 75% applicable to these pharmacies?
So we don't know that answer quite yet, but we're going to get more clarity in the coming weeks. The response that we've been seeing out there is that yes, you will be able to get help too. How we'll be able to quantify that, most likely we'll be able to see January and February's figures, compare that to March and April. And if you can show that you've had a 30% decline in revenue, you should be able to get it too. But unfortunately, this thing's very new, so we're still waiting on clarity from the government. And that's hopefully going to come out very soon.
So what you're saying is, in the event that in March the pharmacies were not able to show any decrease in revenue just because of how busy it was in March, but if in April there is some decrease, then they would be eligible.
Right. From what we
understand. And what about the pharmacies that are not necessarily eligible for this subsidy? What program do they then have, or subsidy do they then have? The 10% initially announced by the government was for everybody. Would they still be eligible to receive that 10% subsidy?
So we're waiting to hear back about that. From what we've been hearing is that those who don't qualify for 75% to 10% wage subsidy, but again, there has been no clarity. But once we do, we will let you know.
Now, for the pharmacies that are eligible, how can they access that subsidy?
Well, the application process is going to come out within the next few weeks. The government wants to get this out within the next 6 weeks. So there's been a lot of negative responses saying why it's taken so long, or why will it take so long. So right now, the application process is not clear yet as to what the next steps are. But what the government is saying is that every pharmacy out there should register for a CRA Service Canada, like an online account, and that way when they get into that Service Canada, they can sign up for direct deposit to make sure that when the application does become available, that the funds can get directly deposited into your bank account. So that's the only clarity that we have right now. As to the next steps, we have no clarity whatsoever, but hopefully within the next couple of weeks, we're definitely going to have some more clarity on that.
Let's chat a little bit about the $40,000 interest-free loan.
Okay.
Who's eligible?
What that is you can take up to 40,000. Okay, and that's going to be interest-free for 1 year. There is no clarity as to what the interest rate would be after that first year, but the whole year is to help out businesses during this tough time. There's only one criteria that you have to meet to be able to get this loan, and you have to take a look at your payroll in 2019. If you had a payroll between $50,000 up to a maximum of $1 million for your pharmacy, then you qualify for this loan. So it's going to be a $40,000 loan up to a maximum of $40,000. It's going to be interest-free for 1 year. And this is the good part, if you pay it back by December 31st of 2022, then $10,000 of that will be forgiven, which means that you don't have to pay it back.
That's great. That's great. And of course, we will be hearing more and more details from the government as time passes in regards to these subsidies and the loans, correct?
Yeah, so these are all very new. They just came out last Friday. So we're still waiting as to what the next steps are for the government to publish what steps and what application forms these are going to have to fill out. We don't know what that is right now.
Thank you, Ricardo. Thank you very much for joining us today.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
That's Ricardo Ardiles, co-founder and managing partner of Pharma Tax. Thank you, everyone. I hope that this information was useful, and I will see you next time.